episode 3.
Episode 3 of our Cloud in Brooklyn, but we have another episode of our coverage of Big Brother.
Yep.
Oh, well, I also brought a special guest.
A special guest?
I don't know, today just felt like...
Who did you bring?
It felt like a sunglasses day.
Mm-hmm.
At 11:35 at night.
Yeah.
And somebody that I love is Gabby from The Traders. She has her own little podcast. And I love it. And it's like unhinged and I think it's called Long-Winded, and she wears sunglasses and just like goes off. And I'm not gonna go off. Like I don't have that energy, but I totally understand why she would want to wear.
Should I bring out my sunnies? Is this some or is this?
I mean, you, as per usual, you always want what I have all the time. I always do something and you're like, yeah, do that same thing. You're a little copycat, but it's fine.
No, it's alright.
You can hop on the train. I get it. That's all I'm saying. I get it. I'm stealing.
Pull them out for a next one.
Inspo. Like just sometimes you just need sunglasses on. And not like the whole time because these sunglasses are a little dark. But maybe like there may be a moment where I need to like put my sunglasses on. Yeah. Like when I'm serious, it's sunglass time. Like this is serious.
Serious talk.
This is serious.
Should I be afraid? What type of serious is this?
Anything.
Okay.
Serious.
How are you feeling?
Well, I've been sick.
Yep.
For quite some time.
I feel like you said you've been sick. Yeah, almost every episode.
I feel like it's. I've been sick for like a month.
Yeah.
Whatever I got has been the lingering thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also really hard to get better when you have children.
And when you're breastfeeding, probably.
I'm just constantly needed. So. Yeah. It's very physically draining. I think that's something that people don't understand about being a stay-at-home parent is a very physical way of life. I'm very hands-on. I'm always moving. I'm always doing things. I always have I'm always like, okay, next task, like you would think I must is working in a Amazon factory or something like that. Like the way that they're just like, okay, you just gotta turn it out. Like that's literally what I'm doing here. It's very, very physical, very demanding.
We appreciate you, Mama. We know you work very, very hard.
Yeah, no, it's a little much.
But that actually brings me into what I wanted this episode to be about.
Oh wait, so you came in here with a plan?
Yeah, I did.
Should I be scared?
No. But it's about parenthood and like being a present parent.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I personally feel like you are so lucky that you get to spend so much time with our kids.
Oh, sure. It's unreal. It's the most important work. This that I'm doing is the most important work. For sure. Raising humans.
That's why I've been really always so supportive of like you like staying home and being there for our kids, and like these are years that we'll just never get back. That's something that I always think about, how I look at both our kids and I see how quickly they've grown up, and I'm like, it's a fleeting moment that just is happening, and I don't get to live as much of it because I work and I'm away at a minimum maybe 8 to 10 hours a day. So the amount of like hours that I get with them is like very small in comparison to how much time you get to spend with them. But I also cherish like the moments that I get to spend with our kids. And I remember, for example, just a couple weeks ago, how I was taking Bubba to his camp every morning, and just being able to spend that like morning,
those little snippets of time.
Yeah, that little like
really
commute
special.
of like us having
sure.
That together. And so that brings me to also the relationship I had with my dad, and how I feel like, one, I do feel like this generation of dads has been the most involved generation of dads with their kids. And it makes me think, like, how has this come about? It's our dads did some work. Maybe they didn't, they weren't at the level that we are involved. But I want to give a shout out to my dad particularly, because I feel like growing up, I remember so many of those moments of him taking me to school every day, taking me to baseball practice almost every day, and spending so much time with him. And I feel like that built his and my relationship that to a point where, like, I feel like it was very impactful. And so I really want to have that with my son, and I strive to, like, hopefully have moments with him like that. Although unfortunately right now I'm not in a place where I get to do that as much because of work.
Sometimes you also have to understand that it's not like the amount of time that you have, but what you do with the time that you do have.
For sure.
And like making those opportunities that you have count. Mm-hmm. And for sure, like the word that you said, I think at the beginning of this was like being present. And that's more than just like being around in quantity of time.
For sure.
Like if you're here and you're just zoned out doing something different, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
You're not, there's no like connection, but like for sure love is getting to this transition point. Like I read, like boys, once they start to hit about 6,
mm-hmm.
they start like favoring their dads more.
Yeah.
And I definitely see, like, I don't think that he necessarily favors any. I mean, like, he loves us both very much and does different things with us, and we provide different things in his life.
But I do agree that up
balance.
until this point, he has been very much, like, I don't want to call him a mama's boy, but he has been very much.
But he and I are always going to have a really special bond.
Yeah.
But it's also that.
But now he's having that.
But he also has a sister that takes my time.
For sure.
Like that's also, I feel like, pushed him more into independence and more seeking, like your company as well.
Yeah.
Because he knows, like, and he also like he sees how much I do. Like he knows what it looks like. He knows I'm like wiped, and he's like, I really don't want to bother this lady. Like I think he knows that. Like he's like, this lady's kicking ass right now. Like let me give her some space.
Yeah.
And so he
it's not easy. Like and he can see that.
Just,
he can
for
see
sure.
how.
He's very, like, if there's something that we've done a good job is, like, teaching him, and that we have to continue to really model and preach on in our home, I think, is gratitude. And I think that that's such a underrated weapon in life, is practicing gratitude. And I feel like even you, like, having these like, moments of gratitude for your dad, and the experience that you had, like, that gratitude does something really positive for your body, for your brain, and for, like, whatever journey you're on. Like, I feel like when you practice moments of gratitude, it, like, opens up more, like, the timeline and journey that you start traveling down.
Yeah, again, I feel like
it's all about alignment.
I'm grateful for my dad, and I feel like as a repayment for, everything that I feel like he did for our relationship, I'm trying to pay that forward and have not even the same, but even a better relationship with both our kids by trying to, again, emulate what he did, but also even take it beyond that and be even more connected and have even like a deeper, more close relationship to both of our kids.
Well, and I feel like something that you just kind of made me think about is that when we look at a lot of families that we know, not necessarily families with like young kids, because it's hard to see when they're young, but like, you know what I'm talking about, but how hard it can be to have a good relationship with all of your children.
Yes.
You know.
I was gonna, you know, that you're like, we're connected right now, because I also feel that my relationship with my dad is very different than my two older brothers. And it's a matter of like, it could be like he had me at an older age, so like he was already in his 40s when he had me, so by the time I was in my teenage years, he was already like into his like mid 50s, more established in life. He owned a business. He had kind of like figured out his life, as opposed to, I feel like with my two older brothers, he was probably younger. He was still trying to figure things out. He also, I feel like, was probably more strict with my two older brothers, it being his first time around.
For sure.
And you know how, you know, Parenthood, a lot of times, like that's what it used to be, like, oh, you know, you gotta be strict with your kids,
authoritative.
And I feel like he eventually figured out that doesn't really, like, that works for some things, but then it creates a strain to a certain extent in the relationship that you have with your kids. You do want to discipline them, and you want them to you do want to like provide them some guidance, but not at the expense of like
their dignity.
Yeah, or just like fracturing the relationship that you have with your kids in a way where they feel like, you know, they can't be close to you, or because you're such an authoritative like figure in their life. So I feel like he has a good relationship with my brothers too, but I feel like with me, he was able to take a completely different approach. He was in a different place in his life, and so he was probably a little bit more permissive with me, and that allowed us to also just have more of a open, honest, like, relationship.
For sure. And I think that's something that comes with experience, and regardless of how you experience, because I experienced exactly what you're saying. Like, I feel like when you're raising a human, you have to remember that you're raising an adult, and they're only a child for a small chapter. And I think that when you're able to establish a really healthy, trustworthy bond with your children starting at a young age, like you are constantly watering that seed from birth, but you're able to build a relationship based on respect. And when you skip that part, it's really difficult to separate the adult version of your child from the child version of them when you just have complete, unquestioned authority over them. And I feel like that's something that my parents have really struggled with, being estranged from my parents, not by my choice, is that they just they can't separate me, the adult, from the child.
Yeah.
And that's really, it's a hard thing. Like, I don't think I've ever done anything to be like disrespectful to them. I still, to this day, I feel like I hold true to this idea. Like, if you ask me what my childhood was like, I was a great kid.
Yeah.
I followed rules. For sure, like, I would do like some stupid
like
kid things here, like every single kid
yeah.
does, of course.
That's part
but
of
like
life.
For the most part,
journey.
like, I was a great kid. I wasn't like lying. I wasn't stealing. I wasn't like getting myself into trouble. Like, we were teenagers in different countries from the US, which I also think is a very different experience. And so that provided maybe a different, maybe even like safer, well, I don't know, I can't speak to your experience, but for me, like, there were safe spaces to make mistakes versus like, I feel like in the US, like a great example is like everybody didn't have cars, right? So people aren't like getting into cars after drinking and being teenagers, and like that alone, like we're close to home, we're walking into the town center, and then we're like going back to whoever's house, you know what I mean, or like hopping on our bicycles, like, you know, like that kind of thing.
I was actually dropped off to every house party by my dad and picked up by my dad.
That's amazing.
At any time, like, really he would pick me up, and I'm talking like teenage years, probably like 15, 16, when you're like first starting to go to like, you know, house parties, and he would pick me up, like, whether it be 11, midnight, 1 in the morning. My dad was there. Like, that was something that he was I also commend them for, like, being there to pick me up at whatever time and not just leave me stranded. And that is a part of having a kid as well, right? Like, you want to make sure you're not just like, oh yeah, whatever, figure it out, sleep at whoever. It's like, no, my dad was like, no, you're sleeping at home,
100%.
I'm picking you up. And so that's also definitely important. And going back to what you were saying earlier, like, there is a part of parenthood which is you want to put out a functioning member of society. So yes, there is part of parenthood where we're making sure that he's doing the things that he's supposed to be doing, picking
100%.
up after himself. And like, some like kids don't want to do that sometimes, right? You have to be like maybe a little bit stricter sometimes.
You can be a gentle parent and have strict rules and boundaries in your home.
Exactly.
That you hold firm. And that is something that people do not understand. I consider us, for the most part, like, yeah, we definitely have our moments where we're not perfect, but even the fact that we can have that kind of awareness and focus on repair when we do mess up, which is a great learning experience for our children, when we model that we're not perfect and we mess up and this is how we fix it, instead of having unhealthy coping mechanisms in response that never get anybody anywhere. That's something that we're going through right now as grown adults in our relationship, you know, and giving just that gift to them is humongous, because our parents were allowed to mess up. They don't think that they were allowed to mess up, especially my parents. My parents are probably the kind of people who are like, ooh, I'm sorry I wasn't perfect. And it's like, nobody said to be perfect, but like, I don't know, try to like not be an asshole all the time.
Yeah. No, I 100%.
But I think that's really funny that you said that your dad would pick you up, because Bubba earlier today was like, I love you so much, Mama, and I'm never leaving you. So he's never leaving you. Like, he's gonna be the guy.
He
who,
really,
like,
he
but
really
both
does.
of them, I feel like, like, we're not gonna be also the kind of people who are like, get out of here.
Exactly. No, I don't think so at all.
I want them. Well, and also we don't know what the world's gonna look like. In today's world, we're missing community.
Yeah.
And I feel like not having community is really detrimental to people. And we have to be that community even for our own children sometimes. I'm not saying that we're gonna, like, they know that they're held to a standard. But as far as much as we can support them, for them to have lives that are like...
For sure. If I can in some way kind of be able to give them a little boost to get wherever it is that they were trying to reach, like, I'll for sure do that. I agree with you where I don't feel like we're going to be the type of parents that are like, oh, we're kicking our kids out of our house. But I also won't, there is also parents that are like, no, you can't leave the house, you know?
No,
so I also won't be that parent.
No.
I will kind of be like, give them the option of, you know, what is it that you're trying to do.
For sure.
Hopefully it is, like, ideally you do want your kids to graduate from high school and live that portion of life where they should be off by themselves for a little bit, trying to, you know, figure out early adulthood as, you know, maybe a college student or what, you know, whatever it is. I feel like that's a great experience that every person should have.
I just don't know that experience is very feasible in today's
will
climate.
it still be around
like,
in 15 years?
Like, is it worth everything that the education system has become for our kids to go to college to be independent? Like, no. Even though we met in college, we're both college educated people, like, I don't know if I'm on the train of what college has become. And if something doesn't change, it's going to be totally unreasonable for us to hold college as an expectation. And I get what you're saying. Like, of course, we always want to encourage independence in them. And I feel like we're doing that now, at their ages now.
Yeah.
Independence is a really, really important, like, value in our home.
Yeah.
And...
Well, our son he's not even 5, he's 4. And he's already helping us with doing the dishes and...
For sure.
like cleaning up and like doing
He has
things
responsibilities.
Exactly.
And they're serious. Like, these are non-negotiable. Like,
For sure.
we all work together as a team. We are not sending out a person in society who cannot take initiative and take responsibility and acknowledge things. But I also, like, something I really love about him is, like, he's able to, like, he feels comfortable, and, like, yes, sometimes he definitely has a little bit of an attitude because he's 4 and he's testing out his own version of what authority
It's part of him figuring
but,
out.
like, he feels comfortable, like, calling us out.
Yes.
100%. Like, who left this?
Yes.
Who left this trash here? Whose was it? Was it yours?
Yes, he does.
I know it wasn't me. Who was it?
I left the Gatorade bottle
twice.
and
Twice.
he called
And
me
he
out.
went in on you. He was like,
He's
Papa,
like, hey, we do not leave.
one here, and Mama thought it was mine. I thought it was his.
Yeah,
And he was like, don't you even dare.
for sure.
It is Papa's. And then, like, the next day there was one on the cloud couch. And he was livid. He could not wait to confront you when you got home.
And
First
now I
thing-
make sure my empty bottles are
You do not want
immediately for recycling.
to. You do not want to be caught losing another bottle around here.
Yeah.
You will not be having it, especially because he almost took the fall for it.
But yeah, it makes me think. Again, we're very fortunate, kind of going back to square one here. Like, again, you being able to spend time with them. I think we're very fortunate as parents to be able to spend some quality time with them. I feel like as a generation of parents, we are a generation that's also just more involved with our kids and more present and trying to have, like, more of a relationship with our kids, as to where I feel like in the past, it was like kids are kids and, like, adults are adults, and it was like there was a separation.
For sure, that's something that I wanted to add, is that you had said, that, yes, I do agree with you that dads are probably more hands-on than ever, but I think in general the family has the nuclear family has started coming back together. I think there was a moment in time, especially like in the 90s, is like, I think about my family, like I had 2 working parents that were not around. I think it's called a latchkey kid, where I had a key to my house starting at like 5, and I was home alone completely. I didn't have siblings, and I had aftercare that I would go to at a certain point, and activities that I like had to go to because nobody could pick me up.
Yeah.
I didn't even really have people like helping me with homework very much. Like, I was completely independent by myself.
And I had a little, and I'm not gonna lie, I had a little bit of that as well. Like,
For sure.
early on, I remember both my parents working and, like, me not seeing them as much.
But I think that there's now, like, a lot. I feel like even looking at the families at our school, I feel like there's a lot of people, like, even though there's working parents, the parents are very
Everybody
involved.
tries to be there.
Like, people really do try to show up and be involved, and it's really, really interesting how many parents have specifically put themselves in flexible situations to have that level of involvement. So I do think, because I think even in the 90s, like 80s, 90s, it was like in the summertime, I've seen these like kind of like posts go around of like, in the summertime, my parents would kick me out of the house and say, come home when the street lights turn on. And like, my parents weren't really there. I maybe like missed that a little bit. I don't know if I ever really lived in places where that was appropriate, but like for the most part, yeah, like I was, even like in the summertime, like whatever, like just leave us alone.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to be around each other all day long. Whereas now, like I'm with them. I mean, I guess we could send them, but even then, like, that's still a whole other like addition to what our chaos already is.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is just simpler, just basking in what is toddlerhood. I did have that moment today, where I've had it like a lot recently, where it's like where you catch a glimpse of them and you notice they're officially out of that stage. When you came home, you were like, wow, like, have you noticed, like, Ladybug's not a baby anymore?
Yeah.
And I literally had that moment today, like this morning.
It was. I like looked at her and I was like, well, like, you are not a baby anymore.
Yeah, I caught that
You
glimpse of her
are
today.
a full-grown toddler that's just like showing some personality. Like, she's in that stage
Mhm.
where herself is coming out, and it's so, like, it's amazing to see. And I also, like, I love to come home and hear her immediately say "Papa," and like that definitely just warms my heart, to be completely honest. Like, it's one of the best feelings you could have as a parent, is to come home and your kids be excited for you to walk in through the door.
Well, I just look like you come home and then she just starts pointing, just to let you know, like, everybody's here now. Okay, we name off everybody, so you know everybody's here now. It's really cute. But yeah, I had the same with Bubba like a couple of weeks ago, where he's not a toddler anymore. He's becoming a little kid.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
So this feeling lucky about being parents also makes me think about a time where we had a difficult time as parents, and it was the time where you had that ectopic pregnancy.
Yes.
And
that was
how that was a time in our relationship that I feel like, and for us as a family, that was very difficult. From feeling the highs of finding out that you're pregnant, and you know, at that point we already had Bubba. This was going to be our second child, and all of a sudden, like, the world crashing down on us. I vividly remember coming home that one day and you being like almost completely white, and I immediately knew something wasn't right with you. I was like, we need to go to the hospital, because even like right now you're saying, oh, I don't feel good, and you haven't wanted to go to see a doctor. So that's something, if you want to know something about this lady over here, is that you pretty much have to be dying to go to see a doctor. And at that moment in time, I feel like I didn't give you an option. I was like, you're literally gonna die. Like, you look like you're physically dying. Like, what's going on?
Well, and I also, like, I think something that is not talked about enough is having, like, I feel like I have some, like, medical trauma from that experience for sure, but probably just throughout my history I have not had good experiences. So I'm not a person to rush to a doctor, because I think that there's a lot of, like, trust in humanity that's supposed to be involved that unfortunately isn't. Because we had been trying, we were really intentional, we were doing the whole like
following
cycles
and
doing all of that, because we really wanted to have a second baby. We wanted to capitalize on, like, the heightened fertility of postpartum, although it was, like, I think it was like 2 years. He was like maybe 2. He was just barely 2, or somewhere around there. I'm not sure.
It was probably
no, he was like probably 18 months. He had to be 18 months because we were in the old apartment before we moved here. So he was close to 2. We really wanted to start trying, and I think it was like 2 cycles, and we did it. And we were so excited. I remember Bubba and I, we went to Target, and it was like almost Valentine's Day or something.
Yep.
It was almost Valentine's Day. We got you like an early Valentine's Day gift, because I was so excited to tell you, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, you're talking 10 years we didn't get pregnant, or like 9 years, I guess, before we had Bubba. You're telling me 9 years we didn't get pregnant up until we had this crazy pregnancy with Bubba, that on our second try on purpose we get pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh, like, we're doing this. This is working out perfectly. Yep. We were so excited. And it was going to be really cool, because I kept saying, like, oh, I get to do this pregnancy. I get to do a real pregnancy, because when you skip the first half of your pregnancy, like, you feel like you've missed out on some things. So, like, oh, we're doing this right this time.
And the first time was very much unplanned, and this one was very planned.
For
I
sure.
feel. Like we were very intentional.
We had a vision. We had a plan. We had a vision, and it worked.
Sure.
And that's always super exciting. And then I found a new doctor because I really wanted to be in Brooklyn, not in Manhattan. And I had noticed that I was like, the biggest thing was like I was dizzy. Like I would have some dizziness, and I was having some spotting. And what was hard about this time is that my best friend was also pregnant. When I told her that I was pregnant, she then told me that she was pregnant.
Wow.
In that same conversation.
Yeah.
And we were both like, this was
like,
the plan.
Oh, we're gonna be
this was the plan.
Together.
Like this is perfect.
I can imagine.
And so when I had told her what I was experiencing, I went to that doctor, and then unfortunately healthcare in Brooklyn is just not where it really needs to be.
Yeah.
And I found out the hard way that I went to this little small office, but then you have to like go somewhere else to do all the extra stuff, and that's not like our vibe. I'm gonna go to one place. I'm not going to 100 places. I'm gonna go to one place, do all my stuff, blood work, ultrasound, all of that. Like I'm going to one place. You don't have me running around the whole city doing this kind of stuff, especially pregnant. Like that should be illegal in my opinion. Like stop putting so much pressure on pregnant ladies. Like they're going through a lot right now, and people should be a lot nicer and respectful of their contribution to society because it's hard. And so I went, I told him, he's like, oh, you're probably fine. I went, he then sent me for like the normal dating ultrasound where I had to go to the hospital. Mm-hmm. And they start the ultrasound, and there's just like no conversation. They're not talking to me at all. They leave, they don't say anything. Like, it's just the most awkward thing. Like, can you at least, like, talk to me? Like, shit, like, I'm a communication person. Just tell me what's going on. Yeah. And then they bring in this random doctor, and he's like, I'm gonna do it now. And I guess he was probably, like, the lead OB. And so there was techs, and then he was probably the lead tech or whatever. And he was like, I'm gonna send these pictures to your doctor, and we're going to discuss it, whatever. And he comes back, and this is like, mind you, I had been there like for maybe like 2 or 3 hours at this point. And he comes in, or one of the girls comes in, and they hand me an envelope, and they say, take this to the emergency room and just hand it to the lady at the front desk. And I'm like can not one person like talk to
Tell me like straight
nothing.
Up what's going
These
on.
people said nothing to me. And so I call you because you were waiting with Bubba, I think. Yeah. And I don't know if you were waiting in the car or what was going on.
I think we were like in a park close by.
You guys had gone out, yeah, while I was in this appointment, because I don't think you guys could even come because this was also like kind of like still like COVID, but not really COVID, and like
those years
weird,
afterwards.
Yeah, those weird kind of immediate years after where people were still a little like iffy about things. And I ended up walking in. I called you. I was like, I guess I'm going to the emergency room. Like I have no idea. And I open up this envelope, and it says possible ectopic pregnancy. And I remember just being so pissed. Like you guys couldn't say this to my face. Like where is the humanity in your work? Like, how do you just sit, like, what am I even supposed to do with this information? Like, and not one person has said a word to me. And then I'm walking into this ER where, of course, there's no, like, decorum. Like, you have these ladies, like, shouting out your social security number back to you for all of these weirdos in the waiting room to write down to open a credit card in your name. Like, there's just, like, no sense in this place. And to sum up that experience, I mean, that first day I was there for 9 hours. Yeah. We were in the middle. I didn't have a charger. My cell phone was dying. I don't even think I knew how to get home. I think like the car battery ended up dying at one point because then you were freaking out because you're like, I don't even know what's going on.
I had to like go back to the car because I needed to, I feel like, charge my phone. And so, and then I feel like I turned the car on, but I don't know what happened to where I killed the battery of the car by doing this. And yeah, that was a whole experience in itself. And
you were doing all of that, and I was doing all of this in an emergency room completely by myself, like totally disconnected too, because like my phone had died like right after that too.
And then we came home, and then we had to go back, right, to the like that's not the day you got surgery.
No, so it was over the span of 11 days.
Okay.
From that day to the day of the emergency surgery.
Yeah.
Because at the time, we were moving. We were in the middle of this move into this house.
Mm-hmm.
And what I didn't like is that the way that this care works is that you're required to go back to the place that's treating you, and for specifically an ectopic pregnancy, a
They
regular
try
doctor,
other methods, right?
a
Is what
regular
happened,
doctor won't see you,
Got it.
and so you have to go into an emergency room, which means that I am spending hours.
Yes, because
I'm not doing this
in a New York City emergency room, unless you're coming in, I'm assuming shot with like a missing arm or something, like they will literally just tell you to sit down and make you wait.
Hours. So and literally what I was waiting on for hours the first time was medication. One pill that they had to bring. It took them 9 hours.
But then that pill eventually
it was supposed to help, and it ended up not working because they also did not give me any patient education on how to properly use this. So one of the things that they say is you can't take folic acid or folate. And I was eating an omelet with spinach every single morning, and I was taking a prenatal vitamin with folate in it. And nobody told me a single thing that that's the number one way to counteract it.
Yeah.
And I'm so I have to go back in, and then of course at that point they're talking to me about surgery, but I don't want to we've already dealt with fertility issues. I really did not think that I was far enough along either that the situation would become what it was going to be. And so I said okay, we'll do another round of this medication, because I'm not dealing with you guys any longer. Famous last words. It didn't work because at that point it was too late. And by pure luck, my mom had come to help us with the move. She had we were going to surprise her with this news that I was pregnant,
and then all of a sudden it turned
and then right before she came is when I found out. And then she had already been planning to come to help watch Bubba while we did moving and help us with moving stuff. And thank God that happened, because there was a day that she called you, day 11 from the day that they found it, that she had called you, or I had told you hey, I'm really not doing good, I couldn't eat.
That was the day that I said we need to go to the emergency room.
And you walked in and you were I literally, you must have carried me down the stairs.
You looked like you were just hanging on by a thread at that point.
My fallopian tube was rupturing, and I was literally dying. I would not have probably made it any longer into an ambulance. And so is that the day you got? And then that was the day that
because it was we took you to the emergency room, and then they took you into
because if you remember, I was supposed to go the next morning for a follow-up appointment for the second round of medication, and I had remembered one of the doctors had said, when you come in at 7 a.m. That's when I'll be in. I'll start my shift, and you're the first person I'm going to be looking for. So you begin in at 6:30 to make sure you're back here by 7. And by luck, he had been there.
I remember,
that day.
And I remember you pointed. And
I said,
"You said,
who did you see?" And I said, "That guy."
And I literally followed him into a room or something. I was like, "Hey, you really need to come see this. You need to come see my wife." And he was like, "What? Who?" And I was like, "Come see her. You'll know who she is." And then he walked over.
The second he
saw you, he was like,
he said, "She's first.
Yes, she needs to go into."
And I was pretty much wheeled immediately into surgery and just knocked out, and that was the craziest thing.
I remember that also was probably one of the scariest days of my life.
For sure, it was very scary. I was scared. It was a lot.
I don't know how risky this operation is in a scale of 1 to 10, call it, but I feel it is somewhat risky. You hear women die of ectopic pregnancies.
I think it's not necessarily the surgery, because it was laparoscopic. So, but the surgery,
just the situation.
The surgery itself is not so risky, but the situation is super risky, and I really think I don't think that like we've told like our family and friends this story in some way, or they've read it because I've talked about it in the past, but I don't think that they really get like I was literally on the verge of death at this point.
I remember,
and that's
like,
scary.
It all hitting me at once in the hospital, because I think your mom probably stayed with our son, and me like literally being in this waiting area in the hospital, just like crying by myself. And it was, and that also comes to like the having a community and stuff, you know, like me not having my family close, and like you're the closest person that I have, and like you're in an operating room that's gonna take several hours, and I have no idea how you're gonna come out of this. Again, with any surgery, there's a risk of complications, and again, like just I remember being just like overwhelmed with all these emotions.
For sure, it was scary. It was an emergency situation that we were in, and it's also probably as scary when you have also a child involved. Like, I don't think you ever want something to happen to the other parent of your child.
Yeah.
You know, just how devastating that.
But then even like the aftermath of just what came about, because we did go through a grieving process.
For sure, 100%.
You again go from being super excited and happy and like euphoric about having, you know, this baby coming into our family, and then all of a sudden we completely lose that. And I remember like you going into a very, call it like dark place in a sense of like your mood and like what was happening, and like granted completely I feel like valid emotions, but it was very, I remember trying to be very strong for you during those times, but also knowing that it was just hard to navigate in a way, because then we reach this point where you get a tube pulled out, right? And like we don't know if we'll ever be able to have another kid.
For sure.
You feel so happy for the one that you have, and it's like these conflicting emotions, because, and I remember that's what I was trying to hold on to, was like, well, look, like we're so lucky we've at least gone through the experience, and we have this beautiful child. But I know that's also, you know, yes, we do have this beautiful child, but we still have this other thing that happened. And so I don't know, can you talk about that?
We were both on the same page with that, of course. I think that like obviously my grief started like pretty much immediately, right? Like the whole time of the diagnosis to the emergency surgery was the denial period of grief, right? Like I was in total denial that this was happening because I didn't meet any of the risk factors. It literally just happened to me. Like if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And there was nothing that I could have done differently to prevent it. But I think where I really stayed for a long time was anger. I was so mad, and not necessarily that it happened, but the experience that I had with the hospital, with the doctors. It was just really,
it was
really awful. It was so frustrating, and it's kind of like a person's going through a really difficult time, and I just didn't feel like maybe that one doctor, right, who came around the corner when you grabbed him. I think at that point, like, and there was a couple of points, like, I mean, I think I'd gone like 7 times in those 11 days to the hospital, and everybody knew who I was. Everybody knew what was going on with me. And there was times like I would not go into the emergency room. I was not being an easy person because they were not being easy people. And I'm like the hardest person to get to be difficult in like a public situation. Like, I'm like the chillest person, like, oh yeah, all of this sucks, it's fine.
But
it's
they
fine.
were taking it to
this
a point
was to a point where I'm like, I am going through this terrible thing. I am trying to be reasonable, and you people are like this. You're torturing me at this point.
Yeah.
And I have said it time and time again. That hospital, I don't know if I really want to put them on, like, their name on blast, but I should. But
it's a hospital in Brooklyn.
It sure is a hospital in Brooklyn. And if I was dying at the front door of that hospital,
you wouldn't go.
Take me somewhere else or let me go.
For sure. That's how bad the experience was.
I will never step foot in that place again. I don't know what's wrong with those people. I'm sorry to those people that their lives are that miserable, but to do what they did to me in those 11 days, like, I need a specific therapy just for that, because it was really, really awful. It was really just unbelievable that they could do that to a person. And so that was really where I lived for a long time, was the anger from the experience. I will say that, like, it made me even more grateful for Bubba, and the whole reason why we even thought, like, how you go from never wanting kids to then suddenly, like, purposefully wanting two is only a testament to, like, how really wonderful Bubba was, and Bubba is, and he always has been, and how much we love being parents.
But I also feel like, yes, I completely agree with you. I just want to expand even further, just because I know there's probably other parents out there that, or other families that are dealing with these type of things. So just to show, like, we've kind of gone through this as well. But even, like, friends of ours announcing pregnancies during this time, and how difficult that was for us.
So when I was going in after the second dose of medication, when I was going in, I don't know if these people will watch this, and if they see this, it's gonna break their heart. You're gonna know what I'm talking about. I'd gone in for the second ultrasound to see if the second dose of medication had worked, and of course nobody knew this was going on at this time because it was early in the pregnancy and we hadn't told anybody. And I had texted a friend, a good friend, happy birthday while I was in the waiting room, and that friend texted me back their announcement video of their pregnancy.
Wow.
Of them with their ultrasound. I'm gonna cry just thinking about it now. I was sitting in the waiting room to get that second ultrasound, and of course they had no idea, but that was really, really devastating, right? And there was all of these little moments, and it's like I've never told them that story, and I hope that they don't see this and, like, feel some type of way. It wasn't their fault, but, like, that's just like cherry on top of what that experience was like.
But right? I remember it like all those, and that's
another great
that
friend.
one happened. But, like, I feel like all our friends were having,
everybody was
babies around this time.
Our close, like, so many of our closest friends, and then
you want to be happy for them,
for sure,
and we are happy for them, but also we were going through. Of course, I was.
It actually didn't have anything to do with them, to be honest. Like, because then you flash forward to that baby would have been due in October, which I was really excited because I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to have, like, a little mini Libra? As a Libra myself, I was really excited. Like, perfect fit for our family would be another little Libra. And October, I want to say it's like Infertility Awareness Month, is the month of October. And it had been, like, I did this whole post basically where most people didn't know. And so I did this, like, public post about the experience in October. And I remember around this time, you're really good friends of ours, but really your friends from your childhood. They were having, like, a gender reveal party. And it didn't have anything to do with their gender reveal. I knew, like they had a very specific journey too, and we were totally supportive of that journey the whole way for many, many years. And it didn't have anything to do with them. It was 100% like my feelings of grief. And two things can exist. You can be happy for another person, but also still be and it felt bigger to me in that moment that I ended up missing that party, not for any other reason than I needed that time to myself. But I do remember that I had posted that, and then the same day this other like kind of random mutual of another mutual kind of like multiple degrees of separation had announced their pregnancy that same day, and then they obviously seen my post and they were like, and I'm sorry to all the people who are struggling, but give me my moment. I was like, okay,
there's no need for that.
There was no, you can just put like, you don't have to be like weird, like either post your pregnancy announcement and be happy about it, but don't do that. Like, we're not doing that. Like, that's not moms for moms. Nobody's over here saying because I'm going through a loss you can't announce your pregnancy. Both things can exist at one time, but it brings out a lot of weirdness in people for sure.
Well, it is
a really
touchy and uncomfortable subject to kind of talk about, but I feel like it is important to talk about like loss and like, again, I feel like there might be a lot of people out there going through this.
I think more people go through it than you know.
Yeah.
And we've known a lot of people who have gone through different levels of that.
And I feel like people don't talk about it as much. You know, it is definitely a very personal experience.
For sure.
And for sure, we both know people that have gone through this as well. And it's stuff like you want to be there for them, but you also don't want to like open up these wounds, you know, and like, you know, it's a very delicate subject. I know it is just because I know how we went through it, and it's definitely a tough thing to go through, but I think it's important to be able to talk about it.
For sure.
And
I don't want that situation that we went through to be for nothing.
Yeah. You
know, like, and there is also a happy ending to that story. The biggest problem that we had after that, once we had kind of gotten through maybe like 6 months away from that, was that there was obviously a heightened risk factor for it to happen again. And at that point, I only had one tube left. And so I think we were really thinking that our best bet was to go the route of IVF, knowing how hard that was going to be. But it seemed like the safest, most feasible option at that point. And so I think we were like really just at the beginning of exploring that journey. Yeah. But we've also known people who have gone through IVF. And I wasn't sure if we were willing to go through that. Yeah. Because we'd already been through emotionally taxing stuff. So I think that we were really on the fence of can we make it through that? Do we have it in us to go through that? Is pretty much where I was at that moment in time. And then and we had also been going through like our own things. I think going through that experience really like shakes up who we are as people. It shakes up your relationship. It shakes up the stability. And but we had a year later, almost exactly a year after that, we had gone on a trip to Hawaii. And people are gonna hate me for saying this, but like, we literally, I remember leaving Hawaii. We were there for like 2 weeks. We had a great time. And I remember being in the airport, leaving, coming home, and saying, you know, like, it can just be the three of us. That's totally good.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I feel like, if anything, I just remember us like releasing. That was, it's crazy how it happened, but I feel like right around that same time, we had come to this like release point where we were just like, you know what? It might mean that we only have one kid, and we were okay with that. We had, and we got a puppy.
We had a puppy waiting
we
for
got
us.
a puppy, and like we had come to that just acceptance.
We had reached the acceptance level of grief. Yes. From the whole experience, and
it's incredible how once we reached that point, and I don't know if this is just how, the universe works sometimes, but then that's when it happened. Like, we weren't looking for it. As to, when the second one, where we went through this whole experience, we were very planned, we were monitoring your cycle, we were going through all these like steps to try and have another baby. When it eventually did happen, it's because we completely let go, and we were just like, we weren't even thinking about that. And again, we were on vacation, and it just happened.
Yeah.
And
because I remember we were in the airport to come home, and I looked at the three of us and I said, it can just be the three of us. Look at how easy it
was. Such a great trip, and
we can like there's three seats in a
row for sure. I remember us talking about that.
We can just spoil Bubba as intended, regardless of how many kids we had, but like we'll just like have the time of our lives with our little only child, and like whatever. And I know that people might have a hard time with that. That it's not really advice, but that is common advice, is like, go on a trip and just totally forget about it. But the trick is like, you can't just be like, okay, I'm going to Hawaii, I definitely don't want to get pregnant here, like please you can't do that. There's like a spiritual release that has to happen, that you have to, it's like an awakening within you, that you can't fake.
And not to say, there is probably couples out there that are going to even, they might try and be the most, open and free and stress-free possible, and it still might not work for them, and like, that's okay too, like, but at least that was our experience.
We can only speak from our experience. But so 6 weeks after that, 5 or 6 weeks after that trip is when we came home, and I had a positive pregnancy test with that little ladybug that is sleeping perpendicular in our bed right now.
She does.
She is this way in our bed. I don't know where we're going to sleep tonight. And she's the most perfect. But can I tell you something that I never told you? Is that Bubba has this thing where he sometimes, like, he'll talk about how he picked us. Like, he remembers being in heaven and how he picked us. And I've asked him, he's kind of said the same story since he was like 2.5. That he remembers being in the sky, and he walked in a room and they said, okay, pick your mama. Okay, pick your papa. And he told me this story. This was like semi-recently. Because we had talked about, I don't know if you'd like seen pictures or something. Something had brought up the baby that we never brought home. It's kind of how we talked about it with him. And he said something along the lines of, when I picked you, and then I got to pick Papa, and then I got to pick Ladybug. And I said, oh, that's so interesting. Like, so there wasn't any other siblings for you to pick? And he said, no, it was just Ladybug. And I knew that she was going to come here. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because like I wonder what that means for the baby that we never got to bring home. And he said, oh, that was her. The body just wasn't right, so she just had to wait and come back.
Wow.
And so I just felt like that was like, I obviously don't have any idea, like, I can't prove that that's true, but like, what, like, how cool is that, like, in his mind, like, because I think that's something that we've always talked about, is like, who could that person could have been? And like, what a cool way to think about it, of like, what if it was her, and she was the soul that was meant for us, and it was just the wrong body. She needed to come back to a healthy body. And I just really love that. I feel like that was a really like healing thing for him to say to me, regardless of if it's true or not. Like, what a beautiful thought.
That is so powerful and beautiful. And I think that's a great way to end this episode. I invite anybody out there to share their story in the comments. If anything that we said here today feels relatable in any way, share your story. I feel like that's a big reason I wanted to do this today, was just to help hopefully other people out there to know that you're not allowed to hand
The
back.
path is not linear.
Yeah.
And whatever the path is, I think we started the top of the episode of talking about gratitude. Just having gratitude in the moments. And right now, I have a whole lot of gratitude that there's a little crying baby at the top of the stairs.
And that's perfect timing.
Mama.
Yes,
And,
Ladybug. Peace out.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll meet you next time on Our Cloud in Brooklyn. We're gonna go save that baby.